Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's guest is a highly accomplished actor, writer, producer, and director whose diverse work and life experiences make him one of the most interesting people in the industry. At the age of 14, he was a breakdancer and street performer. By the age of 17, he was a model appearing in ads for Converse, Gatorade, and J-Crew. He's appeared in many TV shows, including Pacific Blue, Without a Trace, Scorpion, and the HBO hit series Entourage, which is loosely based on his life as an official member of Mark Wahlberg's crew. You've seen him in dozens of movies, including Gone Baby Gone, American Hustle, Safe, Patriots Day, Lansky, Justice Served, and The Departed, in which he not only appeared, he served as a consultant and technical advisor to Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese, offering his insights on South Boston's Irish mob politics. He's written, produced, directed, and starred in several highly acclaimed films, including Scalpers and Diamond in the Rough, which won the Boston Film Night Audience Award. His brand new movie, which he wrote, directed, and appeared in, is entitled It Snows All the Time, and it tells an emotionally powerful story addressing the heartbreaking impact on an entire family of living with a person with dementia.
Amen. Dad and I were just talking, and if it's all right with you, I want to take him fishing for a couple days up to the Snowies.
What the heck are you doing? 10 and 2, 10, 2. Ah, you need to relax and not try so hard.
You might catch a fish.
You think it's a good idea to take him?
Dad, yeah, why not?
Keep your eye on him, huh?
Dad! Mr. Reeves!
Something isn't right, Paul.
Okay.
He got up before we could finish the scan.
I want to go home. I just want to go
I
home.
know you're scared, but we have to do this.
No!
Paul, don't just walk away from us!
You know, people with dementia might not remember us, but we can always remember them.
This movie, starring the wonderful Leslie Ann Warren and co-starring Brett Cullen and Eric Hover, has already won 2 prestigious awards for Best Director at the Boston International Film Festival and Best Feature Film at the Los Angeles Art House Film Festival. I'm delighted to welcome Jay Giannoni to our show. Jay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me.
Jay, you come from a long line of artists. Your mom, Janet, is an actress and was the lead singer in a rock and roll band. Your grandmother was a songwriter. Your great-grandmother was a painter. And all of those talents are in your DNA, which is pretty awesome, don't you think?
I do. I definitely learned something, from all my relatives. And my grandma, my mom's mom, and her mom, they were very artsy. One was a painter, one wrote songs. They passed that on to my mom, who was a dancer and sang in her band and went to the New York Academy of Dramatic Arts. And she passed a lot of that influence on to me.
You grew up in the old harbor projects of South Boston, so you're a Southie, and you had more than your share of hardship growing up, didn't you?
I sure did. Yeah. I'm a Southie boy, true to heart.
Now, as I said in my intro, you've been a breakdancer, model, actor, writer, producer, director. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A boxer. It's true. I wanted to be a boxer. And at one point I wanted to be a professional basketball player. And that's because I was always inspired by these guys because they always came from low income neighborhoods or bad environments. And they had to work really hard to get out of that rut and to make something out of themselves. So I always looked up, to people like that. And, growing up in the projects, seeing a lot of hardship and being around a lot of violence and drugs and bad things, I always wanted to escape. And so when I seen a boxer talk on TV and he was able to do it, I thought, hey, I'm going to be a boxer. And when I seen a basketball player, I thought, hey, I'm going to be a basketball player. But actually, my mom had the most influence on me. So I wound up dancing and rapping and singing and acting.
Did you go to the movies a lot as a kid?
We went to the drive-in, actually. Not a lot the actual theater. Sometimes we did, but we were more inclined to go into the drive-in, actually. So we had a drive-in theater and the speaker would come in on the window and, we would watch it on a big screen and it was always fun. That was kind of the thing to do when I was younger. So, but I did go to the movies. I enjoyed both.
So who were your role models in the film industry once you were starting to grow up and looking towards the entertainment industry?
Who really grabbed my attention when I was a kid was Robert De Niro for some reason. He kind of reminded me of my dad. My dad had passed away when I was really young. And when I seen De Niro on the TV, just for some reason, he kind of had the same hairline as my dad, the dark hair. He's Sicilian. And I didn't have a dad. So I think I may have been looking around for that role model. When I seen him, I just thought, wow, this guy's so charismatic and this guy's cool. And he was someone that I looked up to, as well as, Al Pacino at the time too. I mean, these were guys that did The Godfather, and I was aware of that film, in the late 70s and into the 80s. And these were guys that I definitely looked up to. And I was knowledgeable about the acting game and acting business because my mother was doing theater at the time. She had done hundreds of plays and she would watch a lot of movies and TV at home. And I would hear the names of the actors and actresses. And that's how I got familiar with the industry and everything, and started to keep an eye on actors and the filmmaking myself, and just developed an interest.
Did your mom encourage you to turn your attention towards being an entertainer in some capacity?
Definitely. She definitely did. I think I took it upon myself. When I was around 11, I started breakdancing. By 12, I was in a group called the Floor Lords. They were collectively known as the best breakdancing crew in New England, which represents 6 states. So we were able to battle the New York Breakers, who were the best in the world at the time. So my mother was excited for that because, I loved dancing. That was in my heart and my nature. And it's something that I went about and I took home. And she was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, well, we're breakdancing. And she was like, what's that? And she watched us and she was amazed. And so she encouraged it. And then the music is what inspired me to want to dance. That's hip hop and rap, and it's African-American cultured. And a lot of these kids that were rapping were actually from the projects and from bad environments and bad neighborhoods. And I could relate so much, especially to Tupac. And even before then, Grandmaster Flash and LL Cool J and all these awesome rappers. And I figured, wow, this music inspires me so much. I started writing my own rap songs about my own life. And a lot of people were like, wow, you're saying this and that, and where'd you hear that? And I said, nowhere. That's going on in my neighborhood. And people were just amazed that I could put the pen to paper. And then I felt I wanted to inspire the dancers and be the voice behind making everyone dance. And that's kind of where it went. It went from dancing to rapping. And when I was rapping, I could sing a little bit because of my mom. She had a 5-octave range, and I would hear her sing all the time. And I was approached, hey, do you want to be in a group? What kind of group? Well, 2 guys were on Atlantic Records. The group is over. They're looking for a new guy. They found one. They need 4. You'd be the 4th. I'm like, well, what do I do? Just be you. Be the rapper and sing background. So I said, all right, I meet the gang. Met the gang. Next thing you know, I'm in a group. I get a record deal. And I learned a lot. Let's just say that in the music business. So I learned a lot. I got some valuable lessons. And then I felt like the marketplace I was in Boston was so small that I wanted to take my show on the road. And I went to Los Angeles for a brief visit. And I met some great people out here, to be honest with you. And I was chasing this rap career, solo rap record thing, because the other group was over and we didn't get the success we wanted. We had some managerial and money problems. And here I am in Hollywood chasing this rap career down. And someone asked me, hey, you should meet my friend. His dad's a big agent. And I'm like, okay, I'm not an actor, I'm a rapper. And I met the guy, his name was Jackie Gilardi. And he's like, hey, my mom's Annette Funicello and my dad's Jack Gilardi Sr. And, my family's been in the business and you're hilarious. And we're Italian and so are you. And you should meet my dad. And next thing you know, I meet his dad and they're like, hey, you should audition for this TV show. And I'm like, okay. I call my mom. She goes, what's going on? I said, Mom, they want me to audition for a TV show. She was like, what? I chased that down in New York for 20 years and never got an audition. How'd this come about? And I said, well, I met this kid at this surfer guy's house I know. Next thing you know, I met his dad and they auditioned me for this. They want to audition me for the show. So my mom said, look, you know how to prepare. You watched me your whole life. Just do the work and be as natural and honest as you can. So I studied the lines. I got them down. I went in an audition and my friend's father called me within like 3 hours. And he said, hey, you're ready. And I was like, all right, I already had the audition. Mr. Gilardi said, no, you got the role. I went, what? It was, I could almost cry. It was unbelievable.
It is unbelievable when you think of what some people go through to get any role, and this kind of just fell into your lap. And for some reason, you've been frequently cast in the role of a cop or a detective or some law enforcement official. Why is that, do you think?
You know what? At one point when I was like 20 and I was in my second year of college at Northeastern University, I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a detective. A lot of my friends in the projects and in the neighborhood were joining the military. I was the only kid to go to college. I got a scholarship, a free ride, as they say, and I took advantage of it. And I went to college. Everyone else went to, the Army and the Marines, and they got out after 4 years. And a lot of kids became firemen and, detectives and first police officers. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. And right around then, I got the call to be in the group, the singing group, and that happened rather than me go to the academy and try to become a police officer. And I think just the love of police officers, because I love, police officers. I think they have a really hard job and they're only human beings and nobody's perfect, but the majority of police officers are really good people and they're especially inspiring to kids, especially kids in bad neighborhoods where they show up a lot and they show up as the good guys. So I always wanted to be a cop, and just for some reason, I think manifesting that, God gave it to me. He let me be a cop in like 10 movies.
I want to ask you about the film The Departed. You were very helpful to Leonardo DiCaprio, who played an undercover cop in the South Boston Irish mob. You worked with Leo for 2 months, helping him not only with his Boston accent, but in crafting his character. And that led to you being cast in the movie, correct?
Yes, it did. I met Leo when I was out here, first visit here in Los Angeles. I became friends with Ponky Brewster, who was Soleil Moonfry, and great actress, great girl. Her family are really special to me. They actually took me in when I was living out here. I first visited here and met them, and they introduced me to Leo. And Soleil said, hey, we had a birthday party for Leonardo on Friday. Do you want to come? And I was only staying here for like 2 weeks visiting my friend who lived out here. And I said, sure. I went and I met a lot of people. And by the time I was going back home to Boston, I said, wow, I want to move to LA. And I did, but not without the help of Soleil. She said, wow, what kind of money do you have? And I was like, no, not a lot. I'm from the projects. I don't even have a job. I was only a kid. And she was a kid. She was like, well, I could talk to my mom. Maybe you could stay here. My brother moved out. We have a spare bedroom. I was like, you only see this on TV and or in a movie. Like, people don't do this and go out of their way for people. And that's exactly what they did, is they went out of their way for me. They got me out of a bad environment and a bad neighborhood. And I moved over to Burbank and was staying with Soleil and her mom and family. And it was a great experience. That relationship flourished with Leo. Eventually, we became friends, started seeing him around a lot more when I was living there. And cut to years later, he's getting ready to do The Departed. And we all know Whitey Bulger's from my neighborhood. He lived across the street from me. I was on a first name basis. I had a relationship with him. And I told Leo one night, I said, hey, do you know who Whitey Bulger is? And he goes, no. And I said, you doing The Departed and you don't know? You should do a little research. He goes, I might have heard of him. It sounds familiar. And he said, it's still a little early. And I said, well, maybe we could do some research together. I could tell you a little bit about him. And Leo said, that would be great. You want to come up to my house tomorrow? I got a chef, Jonah, and maybe he'll make us something to eat. We can talk about everything. And I said, sure. So I went up there and he gave me the script and he said, hey, I got a call and do a couple things. Do you want to read the script? I never read a script so fast in my life. It was a great script and I loved it. And it felt like I was at home when I read it, but there were some things missing. And what I did is I just took a pen to the paper on the script and I just started doing some fix-ups, and as I would put it. It didn't need to get fixed up, but I wanted to bring some authenticity to it. So I made a couple changes and I wrote some of the dialogue phonetically. And Leo said, what are you doing? Came in the room. I said, switching a couple things up. I just felt like the accent's not there. And he used to make fun of my accent, joking around and stuff. And so he was reading it and he was like, wow, this is cool. So he kept it. He showed it to Marty, and Marty was like, hey, I want to meet Jay. Can he come here to New York? And so Leo was like, hey, do you want to go to New York? And I was like, sure. And so we went to New York and I met with Marty, and then Marty realized that I was a little bit deeper involved than anybody had noticed. Leo knew this, but my dad was murdered when I was 10, and he was murdered and caught up in the exact same politics that were going on in The Departed. There was an Irish American, Italian American gang war going on at the time. Let's not forget Kennedy was assassinated, and then Robert Kennedy used the FBI to try to take out the Italian mafia in every city from Kansas City to New York to Boston. And effectively it worked. And my dad lost his life in that gang war, and my dad was like a mob guy. And so, I had a lot to offer this project. And Marty and I had sat down and we talked about some of the murders that take place and some of the name calling that took place that were derogative words against Italians. And I said to Marty, I'm not comfortable. That's part of why I changed some stuff on the script. And he said, Jay, he poured me a coffee and he said, Jay, we have to tell the truth. And that was when I got a lesson from Marty Scorsese. He said, we have to tell the truth, don't we? I said, we do. He said, well, they called you guys and us guys those names. And I said, they did. He goes, then we have to let everybody know. I said, okay. It hurt, but the writer, Will Monahan, was amazing. I met him. He's a nice guy. And Leo was just fantastic. And, that's a touching story and movie and experience for me, because it was a chance for me to go back home and to be seen as an actor and to be seen as a guy that's currently in the middle of his dream and in the middle of making it.
Well, you spent 35 days on the set of The Departed in the company of Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Sheen, just to name a few. Did you get the chance to learn a lot from them in terms of career advice?
Absolutely. Mostly from Leo, because him and I would spend a lot of time together, in the car, driving the set, or even going to dinner at night. And about a month and a half before that, he and I had worked on the character. So we worked on the accent and the pronunciation and enunciation. And they had a dialect coach, Tim, who was fantastic. And he was great at what he did. And I was just really honored to be there to help along with Tim and Leo. Leo and I spent the majority of the time together because I'm really authentic and from the neighborhood. So I was able to lend him an idea of what really goes on. And then I took him back to Boston and I introduced him to some pretty serious people. And they were really amazed that I could get to these people. And it was a great experience. And I had a blast and I learned a lot from Leo, mostly from Leo. But I got a chance to talk to Martin Sheen one morning around 7 a.m. It's funny, I was just telling his son Charlie about it. Me and Martin were just talking and, a little bit about the industry and a lot about the town. What these guys do, the actors, like any actor, is when they get to the location, they want to meet as many people from that area and to soak in as much info as they can. And so, I found myself talking to a lot of different actors and lending as much as I can to them. And they would, in exchange, give me little tips like, hey, keep it up, keep working, hey, you're a smart kid, and hey, you're a good kid. And they would thank me for being there to give them information about what I knew that would help them for their character. So it's a give and a take. And while it's happening, you don't really know what's happening because there's so much excitement going on.
Now, Jay, in my introduction, I mentioned that you were part of Mark Wahlberg's circle of friends, which inspired the TV series Entourage, in which you appeared in season 1, episode 4.
I was also in the pilot. I was in the pilot. When the real Entourage shows up in the pilot, it's Mark Wahlberg, Drama, and me. We meet the Entourage on screen.
Well, how did you come to be part of Mark Wahlberg's crew?
Well, I came out to Hollywood by myself. I had known Mark because he grew up about 2 miles away from me. He was also a rapper and a breakdancer, so we were familiar with one another. We were the only two kids doing it at that time from, those areas. The rap game early on was predominantly African-American. For us to be doing it was very unique and very different. For me, I was super inspired, and I had a lot of African-American friends that I was dancing with. So obviously I picked up the music and the flow and learned how to rap, and became friends with Mark early on. Actually, my brother Anthony and Mark's brother Bob were best friends, and they went to school at the Umana together. And later on, I had crossed paths with Mark quite a few times, and I bumped into him here in Los Angeles. And when we were here, he talked about getting together. So we did, and we started hanging out. And then Mark was doing a new rap group called One Love. And by then, I was already kind of in love with acting and working on my acting career and still working on my modeling career. And Mark said, "Hey, let me hear something." So I played a couple of my songs that I wrote and produced for him. And he was like, "Wow, hey, you should be in this group with us." And I was like, wow, I'd be honored, man. It was this beautiful, multicultural rap group of guys from the neighborhood collectively performing together and writing together. And we were very unique at the time. Mark had the gift of bringing people together. He was really good at bringing a lot of different people together. We had an Arab kid with us. We had a Mexican kid with us. We had a few Black kids with us, Italian kids like me, Irish kids. We had the United Nations with us. And it was very early for us, considering where the world was at, very segregated, especially Boston. You have Chinese here, white here, Black here, everybody separated. And somehow we were all together. And I've always given Mark a lot of credit for that. He's always brought people together. So when he asked me to join the rap group, we shot a documentary on the rap group. And ultimately, some executives at HBO and Mark's agent, Ari Emanuel, and Steve Levinson, his manager, felt, hey, there could be something here. Maybe we could develop a TV show or something around it. And that's what they did. And when they did, they asked me what I thought of the script, and I helped Doug Ellen, the writer, with some storyline ideas. And next thing you know, I got a job behind the scenes, and I got to learn how to make a TV show, how to develop a TV show. And I was flattered that my life was implemented in a couple of the characters. So that was a wonderful experience as well.
I should also mention that you appeared with your friend Mark Wahlberg in Patriots Day, co-starring Michelle Monaghan and J.K. Simmons. That was a really great movie about the Boston Marathon bombing. You played a character named Jimmy. Can you share any stories with us from making that movie?
Oh, man. Yeah, I haven't seen Mark for a while. Obviously off in working on his life and his career. He's a big movie star, so obviously he's busy. I'm an actor, so me, I got a regular job and I work on my acting career. So I probably have more time than most people. But working on that movie, that was a serious movie. I mean, what happened to Boston was heartbreaking. Mark helped put that movie together. I had an audition at the time for it here in Los Angeles. Sheila Jaffe brought me in because they were looking for some authentic Boston guys. And at the time I had been in a few movies. So I auditioned, and then I got the call. My phone rang. I was like, hello. And they were like, hey, Jay, they're interested in you being in the movie. It was casting. And I'm like, oh, wow, really? My phone beeped. I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. I have a beep. I look, it's Mark's assistant. Hey, are you doing the movie? Mark wants to know. I said, tell him, yeah, I'll see you guys in Boston. And then that was very exciting, to be able to audition for a movie and book a role and get the director to like you, is always a challenge, but it's always very exciting. And when you're working with your friends, it's super exciting. And in your own hometown. I mean, that's the dream.
Jay, I was intrigued by your short film, Diamond in the Rough, which is about a struggling actor, Anthony Michael, played by you. Your character is desperate and determined to achieve success as an actor. Did you base the Anthony Michael character on yourself?
I did. It's a true story about all the trials and tribulations and hardships that I've gone through here in Los Angeles. I named the character off my brother, Anthony, who passed away actually while we were making The Departed. My brother got killed in Bob. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's always tough going home, There's a lot of hardship there.
Well,
Yeah.
Diamond in the Rough was your first film as a writer, producer, director, and lead actor. That was in 2009. What inspired you to go from being strictly an actor to start diversifying and making your own movies?
Oh, wow. What a good question. I didn't really want to wait for Hollywood to give me a chance. It's such a political town and such a struggle.
And you got to be so connected to get anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's emotional talking about it with you. I tell you, I'm an emotional guy. I don't hold my feelings back.
You're an artist.
Yeah. It's such a tough town. I was going through so much. So my car had the boot on it, and I was going out with this girl, and she broke up with me right around the time I got kind of broke and didn't have any work and had the boot on my car. And I was just struggling. I couldn't get an acting job. I just grabbed a camera and a friend who was a girl, and she went to school for cinematography. And I said, I got to make my own showpiece. So I said, I'm going to make it a true story. I'm going to make it about how hard it is to do this. So we made it. And I'm really proud of this film. I learned a lot from it because of the way I shot it, the frame sizing. There's just so many mistakes, but it's a good film because it
resonates.
It does. It's a real story. I always feel that real stories told in a real way are what resonates, or what people connect with. When you connect with the human condition, when you connect with the character who's giving you their all naturally and organically, like Leslie Ann and Brett and Eric and Taryn Manning and everybody did in It Snows All the Time. Everybody gave something, a piece of them.
Well, before we get to that movie, though, I still have more questions to you about what you did before, because I'm fascinated by your career. Another one of your films is called Scalpers. It's a fascinating expose into the rather sordid world of those people who sell last-minute tickets at sporting events and concerts. What inspired you to tell that story?
I sold tickets to sporting events and concerts when I was a kid. Being broke, living in the projects and seeing a lot of hard times. And my mom was a little depressed after my father passed away. She wasn't able to chase her career. Yeah, man, I'm sorry.
So you really knew the inside world. You really knew the inside world, because that's what you get when you watch Scalpers. You get a feeling that you're immersed in the inside culture of what it is to be a scalper.
Yeah, well, I found a way to make money without hurting anybody. I didn't want to sell drugs and hurt people. I didn't want to steal cars. I didn't want to do things that would put me in jail. But it seemed that the only opportunities around me, I mean, there was one store. It was down the block from me, and there wasn't another one for a mile. Where I wasn't getting a job. I didn't have the tools to know how to go about getting a job. But one day I was down at the Boston Garden playing in an arcade, video games, and someone came up to me and they said, "Are you going to the game?" And I was like, huh? They were like, "Are you going to the Celtics game?" And I said, no. And they said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, okay, how? And they said, "I have an extra ticket here." And they gave it to me. And I looked at it and I went, okay. As I was walking to go to use the ticket to go into the game, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I'll buy that ticket off you right now for $20. And I went, okay. And I took the 20 and I went in the arcade and I played games. And then I heard the Celtics were playing a week later, and I went back down there. And instead of going in the arcade, I didn't have any money. I took the train down by myself. And I looked around and I saw people holding tickets up like they were selling them. And I just went up to a lady and I said, "Hey, what are you going to do with that ticket?" She goes, "Oh, I'm trying to sell it. I don't think I can." I said, "Can I have it?" She said, "Give me 5 minutes." I waited 5 minutes. The game was starting. She said, "Here." She gave it to me. So I went and I looked around and I said, "Does anybody need a ticket?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And I sold it to him for $20. And I realized I have an enterprise. I know how to, I got too big to do this. At one point, being 11, 12, 13, cute and asking for a free ticket worked. By the time I reached puberty at 17 and 18, I had to save that money, not play video games, and learn how to buy those tickets at an affordable price to where I could sell it for a profit. And it became a game, it became a hustle, and it became a way to make money and to help build my career. I used the money to do my pictures so I could model. I used the money to get involved in the arts and to do things, and, you know, bought a car for myself at one point so I could get around. And then I made a movie about it. And when I made the movie about scalpers, I used the real scalpers, the real people in the neighborhood. I wanted it to feel real, like when Martin Scorsese made some of the movies that he made earlier, like Taxi Driver. He used a lot of the real people, he told me. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make my own feature. I wanted to play the lead. And again, I didn't want to wait for Hollywood to tell me when it was time to be in a movie. I figured I'm going to write it, I'll produce it, I'll direct it, I'll act in it, and I'll pay people to work for me with the money I made from scalping tickets.
I'm just fascinated by that because you choose films about things you know, which leads me to ask you about Sweet 16, which is a movie about a troubled young girl named Lily who's tricked into participating in the world of human trafficking. How did you come up with that story?
Well, I knew a couple of girls that got involved in human trafficking. They had leaned on me for friendship at one time and asked if they could talk to me because they trusted me. And I started to learn about the world and have an understanding to the world just through friendship and being there for a friend. And I got engulfed in that world once I realized how horrible it was and that there were a lot of bad people. And they usually took advantage of kids like me, people with no father at home or that didn't have a lot of opportunity for work or things like that. I at one point wanted to do something about it. So this is crazy, I originally got that idea of Sweet 16 from Eric Watson. Eric Watson and I wrote like a short early on. It was very different from the one I ended up doing, but we were kind of going to make a story about this also because we were discussing it around the time we were writing It Snows All the Time. So cut to, years went by. We never got around to doing it and making that short film, Sweet 16. Cut to, I made it after It Snows All the Time because my wife read it and she asked, hey, how come you never made that story? And I said, we never got around to it, but I have new ideas. And then my wife started throwing ideas at me. And she said, I want to direct something and I want to do something around human trafficking. I want you to write a new project. So I said, okay, let me dig around the internet and go listen to some young girl interviews, listen to some pimp interviews. Let me listen to everybody and formulate the story based on true events. And that's just what I did. And I wrote it and acted in it and produced it. And my wife directed it, and we found some of our friends that are movie stars and they acted in it. And, you know, we made this movie because we wanted to make a difference. We wanted to show people what's really going on in that world and how vulnerable teens are and how susceptible they are to being brought in. And just by putting an arm around them and showing them love or acting like you care. People lie and they use people. And I wanted to make a movie to show people what's really going on so it would help them to stay away from those types of people in that world.
Well, I can tell you, Jay, I'm a retired criminal court judge. I don't know if you knew that, but...
Didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, I was a criminal court judge for 26 years, and human trafficking is a very important social issue that does not get the attention it deserves. And I want to commend you, Jay, for shining a light on it and raising awareness of this problem. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you so much. I like to make important movies, and I like to make movies that matter and that have a chance to change the world in the way people think for the better. That's really what it's all. I'm not here to do anything else.
Now let me ask you about your latest film, It Snows All the Time, which is such an emotionally impactful movie about what happens to a family when the father gets dementia. It's based on a true story, correct?
Yes, it is. It's based on one of the leads, Eric Hover. His dad had Alzheimer's, and I met Eric in church, and I wrote the movie based on his story after collecting a lot of information from him. And Eric Watson and I put the pen to paper and wrote the script. And Eric Watson's grandpa also had Alzheimer's. So it was a great group, a good, group of people that understood the world and were able to lend a lot. For me, I was just learning about the world. So I had to do all the research. So I actually flew back to Omaha, met with Eric's dad. And when I went there, his dad didn't even know who he was. And this guy looked young for his age. He looked like he could go out in the softball field and just play ball, go for a run 3 miles. I mean, the guy looked like young for his age, normal dad, normal great husband, regular guy. And I saw the pain in Eric Hoover's eyes and in his mom's eyes and the family. And then I started to relate and have an understanding to what this disease is, how cunning, how baffling. And I felt honored to look, this happened in church of all places. I didn't like meet a guy at the bar and he told me about his dad and let's make a movie and let's become millionaires. I met a guy in church and he said, hey, I saw you in Gone Baby Gone outside the church. And I was like, oh, wow. Hey, thanks for recognizing me. And he was like, hey, I'm an actor and I would love to pick your brain apart. And I was like, sure. He asked if he could take me for a slice of pizza. So we went and he told me a little bit about his dad and the story. And eventually I tuned in with Eric Watson and we flew back there, met his dad and his family. We started writing the story based on the family.
Well, I think everyone can relate to this movie. My dad had dementia for over 20 years before he passed away. And I don't know anyone who hasn't been affected by someone in their family or close circle of friends who got dementia. And although the movie is very sad, you clearly intended to convey an uplifting message about the inherent resilience of being part of a family, right?
Yep. Well, a lot of people are in denial when they're in the early stages of dementia. They're in denial. They don't want to believe it. It's the human condition. What do you mean? Nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. I'm a great driver. You know, all those little tidbits were defenses from our character. They were his insecurities because he was deteriorating right before his family's eyes. And boy, it's sad, you know, because to see it in person it's really tough to see it in person and to put it on film with wonderful actors that can portray true to life emotion.
Well, there's a very powerful scene in the movie in which the doctor tells the three sons that they have a 50% chance of getting dementia as well. Jay, the acting by everyone in that scene was absolutely chilling. And that scene stayed with me long after the movie ended. Congratulations on not only writing such a powerful script, but on great direction.
Thank you. Well, you know what's great about being a director? You get to watch the story unfold. You get to work with wonderful actors. But the thing about having wonderful actors is you don't direct the actors. I never directed Leslie Ann Warren. She came in and she was amazing. I mean, she's the backbone of that movie. I mean, we all learned something from Leslie Ann Warren. She set the tone of the movie also. She came in and she's the mom. She cares about everybody. And in real life. And know what I like about Leslie Ann? She's a woman who favors truth over anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, what's right. Okay, that's not right, then we're not doing it. And she'll tell anybody that. If it's right, we'll do it. So she was actually very helpful in the filmmaking, on set, and working with the other actors and with their characters. She always had something positive to say. And her performance was just always real. I mean, what she took out of the other actors, when she showed up, and I mean, she really helped pull all the emotions because she was just on level 10. She was there. She was present. She was committed. She was amazing, you know, and I guess
so real. I want to tell you what a beautiful person Leslie is. She agreed to appear on our show when we were just starting out. I was a totally unknown interviewer. She was the first big name star we got on the show, and I will be forever grateful to her for opening so many doors for me. I absolutely adore Leslie Ann Warren. And Jay, she was the one who facilitated this interview with you as well. So I have to thank her for that.
Yeah, she's a real sweetheart, you know, and she's a legend. She's one of the greatest actresses ever. She's really amazing. She's a sweetheart and a dear friend of mine. And you know what? I know I could call her for advice and she would take my call, and that just means the world to me.
Well, if you're listening, Leslie, thank you so much for everything. We both love you so much. Now, Jay, you're in this movie. You chose to play the role of the older brother, Tony, but you could just as easily have played the lead character, Jesse, the brother who comes home from LA to find his family in a state of crisis. Why did you choose to play Tony?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think I have the value as an actor. No, people like they see my face, maybe they know it, but they don't know my name. I'm not a movie star, and I'm okay with that. You know, I enjoy acting. Whatever comes along with that comes along with it. And I just love acting. I fell in love with it. It's who I am and what I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. I got into writing and producing and directing because I want to act. And so when we were writing the movie, Eric, who played the lead, and you know, it's about his dad, he said, "Hey, you know, I'd be honored to have you play the big brother." And I was just like, wow, I'd love to play the big brother, because I was kind of like a big brother to him at some point. Him and I became really good friends, still are. And I had a great time playing that role. I mean, being able to interact with Leslie Ann and being in a scene with Leslie Ann, an Academy Award nominated actress. I mean, come on, that was a dream come true for me as well. So yeah, being able to be the filmmaker, one of the filmmakers, and being an actor in the movie, it was like, I got to accomplish so much in this movie. And meeting Eric in church just made it more special, because I met him in God's house and we accomplished this under God's umbrella. And therefore this is God's work. And real quick, I wanted to get back to something. You mentioned being in the hospital and that scene being so powerful. Let me tell you, you're right. It was powerful. You know why? All eyes on Eric in that scene, and Brett, because both of them are children of parents with dementia, and the chances are that they will have it. So it was a tense moment in there, looking at Eric and looking at Brett for what they're really facing. It was a deep moment, and we caught it on film.
Jay, when you look at your life, you look where you came from, you look at the hardships, you look at the strength in the mother that raised you, and you look at these opportunities that have come your way that really, some of them are miraculous. Do you think that your dad's there watching over you? Because I can feel it.
I think so. I think a lot of people are. I've had a lot of special people in my life that have came and went, unfortunately.
You have guardian angels.
Definitely. You know, sometimes in life we have to be our own guardian angel too. You know, so it's about me making the right decisions and putting myself in the right environment, so I'm not influenced by the wrong people in the wrong environment, and staying focused on my work. I don't have any schooling behind me. I don't have any background in filmmaking, cameras, acting, or anything. I took this all on with pure passion and love for the art. And
you took it on with intuition. You have very good instincts about what feels right.
Maybe. I have wonderful people around me that help me do that, though, to be honest with you. I can never take credit for that. I mean, having Brett and having Eric and having Leslie and all these wonderful actors, and, you know, in between shots, changing a lens, there's small talk. It's important talk. It could be about the character. It could be about the story, and all these wonderful actors that come to give themselves to the movie and for the cause. They really make the movie what it is. That's the truth.
So what's next for Jay Giannoni?
I have a couple of films coming out that I have parts in and I'm excited about. And then I'm working on getting my next movie off the ground to direct, something that I wrote. And I do have 3 or 4 scripts. The 4th one I'm working on right now. I have a few scripts written and that I'm working on getting out there and getting in actors' hands and investors' hands so I can make my next movie, as well as I'm out there auditioning, and I'm up for a project right now that I really hope I get. It's with some pretty serious people. Everybody in this project has an Academy Award, and I just want to be there with them so bad because they're the pros. And so we'll see what God has in store, because there's an old saying, if it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. So for me, I'm going to keep on doing the work, and I'm going to let God continue to guide me. That's it.
I think that's a great attitude. I think you're a person who very much trusts your instincts, and you seem to have a knack for attracting people who believe in you and who see your potential. So I have no doubt, Mr. Jay Giannoni, that I'm going to be seeing you back here on our show, and I'm going to be seeing you at the big Oscar and Golden Globe Awards ceremonies. And I'm just going to be so proud that I got my chance to meet you.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you, and let's stay in touch. I'll keep you posted on what's coming up, and we should follow each other, obviously, on social medias and whatnot. We'll see each other's announcements, and It's a real pleasure to be on here with you. And I have a lot of respect for you, obviously, being a judge. I'm sure you were an attorney before that. So you've done nothing but work your whole life and hit the books. And you're an accomplished gentleman yourself. And you got a great show here. And I'm really honored to be a part of it. Thank you so much for pushing us in the movie and pushing us out there and helping to inform people about this movie. And, you know, we made this movie for your dad, too, you know?
Well, and believe me, I felt it. I want to congratulate you on all the success you're having with It Snows All the Time. I hope you'll come back with every new project. You're always welcome. Thank you so much for appearing on our show, Jay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you guys again.
And a special thank you to my dear friend, Leslie Ann Warren. Don't miss her unforgettable performance in Jay Giannoni's brilliant new film, It Snows All the Time, now available on iTunes and many other streaming platforms. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to our producer, Steve Silver. Thank you to my team in LA and the UK. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.